So, hang on. I can't get the right intro to play. Oh well. Here we go. Well, we're live on Thursday night with Up on the Bars. Got a really cool guest on here, and I have to tell a little backstory. Me and my wife were sitting on the couch at home, and I was playing Xbox, and I happened to be kind of scrolling through Facebook, and I seen a picture of somebody said, "Oh, I'm going down to get fitted for my seat to race in the truck series at Knoxville." And I looked at it did a double look. And it's this dude, Brayton. We've been friends on Facebook for quite a while. We just share racing and all this stuff. So I sent him a message. I said, "Man, you're racing it?" He's absolutely. I said, "Well, man, can we have you come on the show?" He said, "Yeah." So here we are tonight. So Brayton, welcome to Up on the Bars. I'm glad you agreed to come on here tonight. I'm kind of excited about it. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Definitely a pretty cool experience. Made my NASCAR Camping World Truck debut just less than a week ago, so pretty neat to be able to come on here and just talk about it.
Yeah. So I want to go back. I trolled through your page to find out a little bit about you. You started racing go-karts at 8 years old, it says. So tell us your progression from go-karts at 8 years old to what just happened on Saturday in Knoxville, Iowa, because that's crazy.
It's definitely the unusual route I took. Most guys normally go into the NX Legends route and then new asphalt late models. I started out in go-karts, like you said, when I was 8, which it's not direct. It's not a fat kart. It was a fully caged, like I think like 3.5, maybe 5.5 horsepower, like Harbor Freight Predator engines there we ran. And they were pretty neat karts, and they were called the Junior Fast Kart Class. And it was all kids below 15 at the Indianapolis Speedway on my home track there. It's a flat fifth mile. And I raced those for 3-4 years. And I got into racing. My dad used to race, and he used to own the car, owned the car since the 80s, and owned them since the 90s. And he used to race himself. And when I finally got old enough to hop in the car, I'm like, "All right, Dad, it's go time." And he was getting ready to kind of retire a little bit, I think, and now his son wanted to come up, and it's cost him a lot of money since then. So he probably should have just told me no, but yeah, I started out with go-karts when I was 8, and then when I was 12, we decided we wanted to move up a little bit. And when I say a little bit, I mean a lot. And normally, you move to like a Hornet, maybe like a 3/4 Sprint or something. No, not us. We moved into Thunder Cars, which is our version of like a hobby stock or a street stock. So it's like full 112-inch wheelbase, V8 engines. And it was a 1977 Ford Thunderbird is what it was. And I was 12. And I'm racing against guys that are 30, 40, 50, even 60 years old. These guys have been racing for longer than my parents have been married. And, these guys have been racing for a while. And so the experience gap there was pretty significant, and I went out there. I raced there. I also at the speed room, which it's an asphalt track, by the way. I'm not sure I said that. So it's a fifth mile, and it's asphalt. So it's very hard to maneuver around. It's basically a mini Martinsville. You run around the bottom line, and if you're going to pass somebody, you better give them a little bumper love. So we ran that for a couple of years. And when I was 15, we decided to make the move to dirt. And with no prior dirt experience whatsoever, I hopped in a super late model down at Brownstown Speedway here in Brownstown, Indiana. I got Rookie of the Year my first season, got 10th in points. And that's kind of where we've been at ever since. I've been running figure 8 stuff, which the figure 8 stuff here is just crazy. I ran figure 8 in Thunder Cars when I was 13, but I didn't run a late model figure 8 until I was 15. And I mean, I'm talking like full blown late model. Like these things are $50,000, $60,000 late models. They're open wheels, got these big wings down the side. They're crazy. And I remember going through this little intersection, the crossover here at 70, 80 miles an hour. So it's definitely pretty fun to watch, and definitely not scary. It's pretty scary to watch too with my mom. And then we ran dirt. We ran dirt the past 3, 4 years now, full time. Off weekends, I'll go and I'll race Hornets or I'll race, the figure eight stuff. And although in December, this past December, my dad walks in my bedroom. He's like, "Hey, son, what's up, Dad?" He goes, "What do you think about running the ARCA test down at Daytona in January? Every January, the ARCA Menard Series, they go down there at Daytona, just the ARCA series, no trucks, no Xfinity, no Cup, and they have a 2-day test, and that's it." And I'm like, it'd be cool. I mean, it's Daytona. It'd be neat. I mean, don't know what we're going to do with it, but I can say I ran Daytona, and I knew Willie and Donna Mullins, owners of Mullins Racing out of Virginia, from TikTok, and social media, and I didn't really know them. I just knew of them. So
Right.
I go to their Facebook page, and sure enough, they have a post like, "Hey, we're looking for some drivers to come down to the Daytona test with us. Hit us up if they're interested." So I shot them an email. It was like December 22nd, December 23rd, and I get an email back from Willie. He's like, yeah, awesome. Here is my wife's email. She'll reach out to you shortly. And a couple weeks later, we go down to Daytona. I have the time of my life. I'm going 170, 180 miles an hour. And from a kid that grew up figure eight racing and dirt racing, you never expect to make a Daytona, not even a practice session. So it was definitely pretty interesting. And we thought that was it. We're like, it was cool. We did it. Let's go back to the dirt stuff. Next month, we would be there at Daytona 500 weekend with the ARCA Menard Series actually racing, which was just out of this world. That whole experience was out of this world because they're sitting there and the people walking through the pits. I mean, the people we're pitting next to, because I know we were pitted next to the Xfinity guys. So we're, here's Carl Long, here's, Colleague, here's all these guys. And it was phenomenal. And we go and finished 13th, and I scratched on the car. I actually had a pretty good run at top 10 finish there late in the race. I had a terrible start. I qualified like 17th, and I missed the shift to start because all I've ever raced is like Burt transmission, so we have a low gear, we have high gear. I know I drive a manual, but I started in. What problem was is I started in fourth gear instead of second gear. I just pulled it down, 2 over. So I hit the gas to go, and I just don't go. So I went from 17th to like 29th and 150 feet, and that was the most terrifying 150 feet of my life because you got guys passing on each side.
Yep.
And we rebounded to a 13th place finish, but we had a really good run on top 10. I mean, I had a late race caution, and kind of shuffled things around, but we thought that was it. And then a couple months later, we're going to Talladega. Which, I mean, it's Talladega, man. I watched a lot of Talladega Night, so I got my Talladega Night quotes ready, and we go and the Mullins again. And they started us by owner's points from last year, which we didn't have any. So I started 31st out of 33 cars.
Yeah.
Which at Talladega is definitely a tall task. And we got inside the top 25 or so, like in the first 2 or 3 laps. It was kind of chilled there. We're far enough back in the lead pack. If we're going to wreck, we're going to be far enough back where we can avoid it. That was the plan. Although plans don't always go as expected. So we get contest and caution at the halfway point, kind of recoup. And it's at this point now, we've had a couple of 2-3 car spins, but that's about it. Nothing too crazy. And the ARCA at Talladega normally isn't too crazy. I mean, the most they've had in the past decade, I think it's like 1 6-car wreck, and that was it.
Right.
So, I mean, it's not like Cup where you have the big one, the entire field gets taken out. So it's definitely pretty interesting, but it's a weird strategy. So it's a halfway point. We're like, it's go time, baby. Time to send this thing to the front. We move inside the top 20. We're running around the top 15. We're at the back of the lead pack. So if they do wreck, I can check up if I have to. Well, I anticipate the wreck will be right beside me. And I got clipped. I got spun. I got ramped at 180 miles an hour. Pretty neat. If you go to YouTube and type in ARCA Talladega 2022, there's like a 4-minute, 58-second highlight clip. And 3.5 minutes of that 5-minute clip is just talking about me getting ramped. And so we thought that was it. ARCA, Daytona, Talladega. I mean, you can't get much more than that. Not from a small town kid from Greenwood, Indiana that races figure 8 and dirt cars. And sure enough, we get in contact with the right people, and we make our NASCAR Camping Road truck debut.
All
So
right. So I want to go back on this because I've driven by the track at Talladega. I've driven by the track at Daytona. I've never seen it up close and personal. So you're saying you're coming from a 5th-mile track, and now you're all of a sudden you're in Daytona at a 2.5 miles track. What is your thought the first time you roll out on there with a helmet on? I have to ask. I mean,
it was driving by the track. The biggest asphalt track I've been on, I think, is a 3/8 mile. We ran Mount Lawn Speedway here in Indiana. I ran one race with the CRA in like 2018, I think. So it was a couple of years, but it's not much bigger than a 5th mile either. And
right.
I've been on some half-mile dirt tracks. I've been on some quarter-mile. Brownstown, I think, it's a quarter-mile. So I've been on some bigger dirt tracks. But just driving by Daytona, I'm like, yeah, this place is big. Because I've never been to, I've never been to a NASCAR race. Watch on
Right.
TV every weekend. And, I live here in Indiana, and I've been to IMS one time. So, not twice, but before that, I've been one time. So, I mean, I wasn't really sure how big it would be. And we're just driving around the outside before, we're done for practice in January. We're just driving around the outside. And I'm like, oh, my Lord. And we got there at night. And so we're driving around at night, and it's beautiful. It's lit up. And we go by, an airport. There's, an airport there, and I have, an airport phone lock. And it's right on the outside of the track, down the back stretch. You can see the grandstands, all the grandstands lit up. And I'm just sitting there, in awe. And I'm taking pictures, and I just lose my mind just watching how big that is. And then my dad goes, son, you're going to be on that track here in a couple of days. I'm like, I didn't even think about that part. But we go, I put my helmet on there, and Dad, Lamont had 6 kids testing with him. And they're all asphalt and 8 model guys, too. So, I mean, they're looking at us, and we're figure 8 guys. We're dirt guys. They're kind of like, kind of weird, Not sure why they're here. But the Mullins are super awesome people, though. And they're definitely, that whole crowd was very welcoming. And once we showed them the figure 8 stuff, like, oh, dude, that's so cool. We went to dinner that night, and they just sat there and watched it for half an hour. But I was the last person to get in the car on the first day of testing because I'm a bigger kid. I'm a tall kid, and those guys definitely weren't as big as me or tall, so they had to adjust the whole steering and all that. So I go out, and I'm going around the apron, and I see a pack of 3 cars fly by me. And I just go, I'm cruising, I get up through the gears, and I'm just flooring it. And it's you can feel the bumps, and I'm like, this thing is just unreal. Just hearing it returning to 7,000 RPM, which isn't a lot compared to the dirt cars, and we get up to 8 or 9 in the dirt cars, but it just sounds so much more epic when they're going 175 miles an hour,
Right.
And my first reaction was just, what am I doing here? I should not be here right now.
Yeah.
But we stuck with it. We actually, I think we were 15th quick on the second day of practice. So that definitely was, it was a good learning experience, a good learning curve.
All right. So here's my question. You're talking about racing Brownstown, which I bought a nose for a dirt late model from somebody that races Brownstown. Tincher is his last name.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know somebody down in your weight, but you go from a 5th mile to a 2.5 mile, and you have some go-kart experience, but those cars are, and I've covered some asphalt racing this year. And when you go look at a sprint car on the asphalt versus a sprint car on the dirt, vastly different in the way. I mean, sprint cars are 2 inches from the ground at the asphalt. And on the other one, they got 100 inches of stagger in the rear. So, I mean, how do you put in your mind to go from that mindset where the car jacks way up on the left side to one that sucks down to the ground? That cannot even be close to the same experience at all.
Yeah, it was a lot of mental games, sitting there telling myself to go through the corner and floor it. It was a big mental game. I did a lot of iRacing too to prepare for it. I'm a big iRacer. I love iRacing.
Right.
It was us. I would say an edge on the older generation that never had that growing up. But I mean, I had to go and just practice there and get used to that mental mindset before we even get to the track. So it was definitely very unique and a very different mindset that I had to have had to have going into that whole experience. But then the steering is so. I mean, just turn it like that much and you're good. And it's the banking. I mean, it's like 36 degrees banking, I think, maybe 34. I mean, just going through that banking, you just feel like your whole body get like thrown that way, and it's a big mental game. Is what it is.
All right, so the ARCA race at Daytona, clearly it's not 500. What is it? 150 is what you run.
Oh, yeah, I think it was 80 laps. So 200, I believe. 200? No. Yeah.
Okay.
250? 250, something like that. 80. Yeah.
So how does that compare to going out and running a 25 lap feature in a late model versus doing that? Because I know that's got to be vastly different too.
Yeah. Yeah. So 200 miles around Daytona. I just did the math real quick. Yeah, it was 200 miles. It's oddly not as enduring or not as physical as you think. And the figure eight stuff, I ran here in Indianapolis. We have like 150 lap, 200 lap. We have a 3-hour long figure eight race here in Indianapolis.
Oh, good Lord.
Pretty big deal here. We're on the 46th running, I think, or maybe the 47th running of that race. So we've been doing it for a while. This will be my 4th year doing it. But it's definitely, it's not as physical as you think. The biggest problem is the heat. Because everything I've driven has been fairly open cockpit.
Right.
Like the Hornet stuff still, you're not going that fast, and I have the AC in my. I had the AC in mine still, so I just turn the AC on when I'm racing. But you have like just a little like Alexian thing right in front of you, and it's a big open cockpit. Well, those cars, they're made to get as little air into the cockpit as possible. So the first time I got out of the car, it was, like I said, it was January, so it wasn't that bad. It was actually fairly cold. I remember wearing a hoodie that day. But, like, you just start sweating, and it's, like, really hot. We had, like, a helmet that were hooked up to the top of my head. It didn't really help that much. But the biggest thing, though, is it's, like I said, it's a big mental game. There's so much stuff you can do. Just keep doing it. And you're not moving around. I mean, you're just turning your hands, like, that much. You're just, like, your foot. The biggest problem you have is your foot goes to sleep. Your throttle foot. You're just holding the floor 24/7.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you're talking about Florida. If anybody hasn't been to Florida, you don't know what hot is till you go down there and deal with the humidity in Florida. I can't even. It's drastically different than it is for us out here in California. Which, don't get me wrong, we were just recently in Bakersfield, California. It was 106 degrees. 106 degrees is still hot. Don't matter if there's humidity or not. It sucked. But anyway, hey, Mark Garner, how you doing tonight? Hi, Lacey Lester, how you doing? And Jerry Van Ness. Hey, appreciate you guys watching. But all right, so tell us how the deal, and if I say this wrong, tell your people, sorry. Your deal with Rayon Brothers at Knoxville. Tell us how that came about and let's get into how that came about for you.
So the biggest thing about that whole deal was the neat thing about the whole NASCAR and ARCA circle is the hardest part about that is to get into the circle, get your foot in the door. Once your foot's in the door, that door is wide open because once you get that contact, you basically you can call someone up and like, hey, I need so and so's number, and be like, yeah, sure, here you go. So once you get that initial contact, it becomes a lot easier. And a good buddy of mine, Brad Perez, who he ran with Rayon there at Sonoma and Coda, I believe. He made his debut there with Coda with Rayon, and he worked with the Mullins. He was down there at the test. He was on the crew there at Daytona. It was Willie's crew chief for Talladega. So we'd become pretty good buds from that. He's mainly a road course guy. And that's kind of the initial point of connection there is we know Brad knows these guys. And we had another friend who, his name is Bob down there. He's the drive shaft guy for a lot of teams. He helped us out a lot. And he kind of took us in under his wing. We didn't really know who he was, but he reached out to us when we announced the Daytona ride. And he's like, I'm going to help you guys out here, give you a little bit of information. And he's been a huge help with that. and he's mainly been our main contact point. Like I said, once you get that contact point, you're good. So he knew the Rayon brothers and Josh and that whole team, so he put us in contact with them. We could relate to them with the whole Brad thing. We heard Brad's firsthand experiences about the team, and it was very positive. So we're like, all right, this seems like a pretty good deal. So we get the contact, and my dad calls him up and is like, hey, Josh, I'm ordained. This is my son Brayton here, and kind of told him a little bit about me and the team. What would it take exactly to get a deal for Knoxville? And he gives us the information we need, and so we're like, okay. So so instead of working on the cars, because I spend all day, I wake up 9, 10 o'clock. I get up, I go to work, and then I'll work on the race cars. We don't have a full-time crew. We have one full-time guy sitting there tending races in the car. Shout out to Crip. I don't know if he's watching. Kyle, Crip. And so normally it's me and him sitting there working on cars. I build some of our motors and stuff too for the dirt cars. So I'm typically doing that. So we go from work on the dirt cars and the figure 8 cars to working the phones. We're calling people. We're like, hey, here's what we need. If we're interested in national level sponsorship here. National level recognition, and I put together a lot of portfolios, these presentations, and sure enough, we're able to put a deal together, go run, Knoxville. So it was. They say it takes a village to raise a child. It definitely took a village to raise this child.
Somebody got a chuckle out there. Nathan Rose says Crip.
Yeah, that's Nate. He's a tow truck driver there. He's pretty cool dude too.
It says Dave. I believe it's David Michael Owens. I have a question. Ask it, sir. We'll put it out there if we can answer it. But go for it. So why Knoxville? Was it because of the dirt, or?
To be 100% honest, it was mainly that dirt background. NASCAR, we weren't even with my ARCA experience and my asphalt experience. I wasn't approved for asphalt competition on the truck level, so Knoxville was like the only thing we could really do. And I had that dirt background, so we're like, it's a win-win. So they say asphalt is like 80% car, 20% driver. Dirt is 80% driver, 20% car. So we had that advantage going in. Like I said, I've never driven a NASCAR truck before, so I had no idea really what to expect or how it would handle. And it's a lot heavier than anything I've driven on dirt. So we just want to go in there with that open opportunity, I guess, is a good word for it. We weren't sure what we were expecting, so.
Yeah. All right. And Dave, yes, we will be live at July 3rd at Stockton. Yes. So that was a question for us with the streaming service. So, now I was following, guys, you got to go check out his personal Facebook page at Brayton Laster. You can find it. There's another one. I believe it's Laster Racing is the other page that your mom or dad or whoever your social media person is updated throughout the whole process at Knoxville. If you want to see something that's really cool to follow, I have to tell you, they got them in the vehicle all together. His parents are driving him, and it says they're heading to credentialing. I don't know what your mom's post was. Well, my son made the show, so we got to change outfits. It's just kind of cool through this whole process. They documented this whole thing of while you were there. And they built it all up to doing your first laps out there. So I have to ask you now, getting onto the track at Knoxville, you ran dirt. We talked about the way dirt cars, the attitude they do. It's been documented that NASCAR vehicles do not react the same on dirt.
No, they do not. Not at all.
How was that? Tell us how that was for you when you got there, because I know that had to be, I know you kind of, now I don't know that you did. I would go in there thinking, okay, dirt, I got this. We've raced dirt. I got this. You get in there and then it's like, well, crap, that didn't go as planned.
Yeah, I was told, we were talking to some of the guys that drove Bristol Dirt or Knoxville last year, and some other NASCAR guys in general about what our expectations should be when it comes to handling and setup and all that. And the good thing about this whole deal was I can just show up and drive. I don't have to focus on setup or anything like that. Normally at the track, I'm sitting there doing right session setup, me or Crip or someone's testing, tire pressures or pulling, spring rubbers out. So I could just show up and drive, and that's all I had to worry about. And I was told before the race, they're like, "Hey, Brayton, heads up, anything and everything you know about dirt racing, throw it out the window. It won't help it here. They're kind of hoped." So I'm like, "Oh, great," They're like, "They're going to turn right, but they're mainly going to turn left because it handles, like a 3,200 pound stock car. 'Cause that's what it is. I believe the truck is 3,200 pounds. I might say 3,200. And I'm like, all right, here we go. And I hop in the car for the first practice, and we had a little bit of a driver comfort issue. I just couldn't get comfortable where I would like. So we changed stuff really quick. And I sat in the seat earlier in the week, but I was without my fire suit, and that fire suit added just a hair of uncomfortness. And so we're like, oh, great. And so I didn't get out to the first practice session. I think it was like 45 minutes. And we didn't get out until like the 15-minute left mark. And we were going to go out late in the session anyways. At that point, the track had like slipped over a lot. So time-wise, we were like one of the slower, if not the slowest in the chart. I mean, we were still pretty close to everybody. But time-wise, I mean, we had the slope. We were on the slickest track. A lot of those guys, they set their times during the session. And then we go for the second session, make some adjustments, and it was a huge learning curve. I mean, you go in the corner, and the truck just kind of washes up, and I'm like, I'm going to change up a little bit. And you go in the corner, and it still washes up. We're like, all right, I'm going to slow down a little bit. You go in the corner, and now just don't have any momentum. So it was a huge learning curve, and it definitely took me that entire practice and the qualifying race to really understand how to drive it, and most of the feature as well. But it was definitely very interesting and very unique, I'd say.
All right, so I know they do at Knoxville. They do just like regular dirt racing. They do heat races, so on and so forth. So who all was in your heat race? I know you mentioned earlier to me off air, Norm Benning is one of the people that was in your heat race. Who were some of the other notable names that were in your heat race that you competed with? Do you know?
I know my teammate was in there, so that was definitely very nerve-wracking having both the Randall brother cars there, or both the Randall brother trucks, or the trucks.
Who was your teammate there for that weekend?
Devin Roush. He's a sprint car guy out there from Iowa. So it was he raced there last year with the Randall brothers. So it was very cool to have him. I could sit there and talk to him, ask him about his experience last year. And I had Derek Kraus in my heat race. He started in front of me. And then John Hunter Nemechek, both of the Moffats, Thad and Brett Moffitt were both in my heat race. And someone else was, like one of the fast guys were up front. I don't know. Zane Smith was in my heat race. And Norm, I started dead last. It's random draw too, so that's my luck. I start dead last. I got Norm on my inside, Derek Kraus, and then my teammate. So I'm like, we're all back here in the back, and we sit there. They do based on where you finish, and they do passing points. So we sit there and we do the math ahead of time. Like if I beat one truck, we're good. And we didn't have a provisional. It goes by points. So we were like 31st in points, I believe, going into the weekend. So if we needed a provisional, we might have had it. It just depended on how the other heat races played out. So they're like, you beat one truck, mathematically you should be good, depending on who gets ninth in the other heat races. So I'm like, I say less. I got this. So we take the green flag. I jump up to 8 going into turn 1. I lose both those spots coming out of turn 2. And I'm like, okay, I have a bit of a challenge here. I'm just running behind, and it's my teammate, Norm, and then me. I'm just we're like kind of single file here for a little bit. My teammate kind of gets a bit of a gap. And here's Norm. It's Norm and me. I'm like, all right, Norm, I love you. You're an inspiration of mine. I really don't want to have to beat you to put myself in the show, but it looks like I'm going to have to. And I sit there and follow him for 2 or 3 laps, and finally he makes a mistake and kind of losses up the track. I just kind of slide on the inside, pass him, didn't even touch him, and just kind of drive away from there. So that was pretty cool.
All right, so now your main event, I forgot where you finished. I saw your post, but you didn't tear up the truck, so that's awesome.
Yeah, we started 31st. We were the last car to qualify in based off of passing points. So we had all 5 provisional guys started behind us, and we ran a very clean race. I mean, not a scratch on the only damage on the car was the paint chipping off the front bumper from like the brim there.
Yeah.
Or the berm, the brim. I've heard it called like those. I call it the brim. They call it the berm.
Yeah. The cushion.
Yeah, the cushion. Yeah, there at the bottom. So that the paint chipping is like the only thing that is wrong with the car. Like I get out of the truck and I'm talking, and actually with 5 to go in the radio or 5 to go in the race, I knew I had a very clean truck. And I'm talking to over the radio, which dirt stuff in figure eight, we don't have spotters and we don't have radios, so that's very cool. But we have the one-way communication with the dirt, but you can't talk back. It's cool. I get to sit here and talk to people while I'm racing, and as these guys probably tell you're watching, I love to talk. And I'm sitting there, and we have caution. We're going to be like a 3, 4, 5 lap shootout, and Josh, the team owner, comes up with the radio. He's like, "Hey, Brayton, I just want to tell you, you've done a fantastic job. It's, run these last couple of laps. You're bringing the truck home. It's in one piece for now. Just killing it out there. Just bring it home in one piece." I mic up over the radio, and I love pizza. If you couldn't tell, I mean, I got the truck on the
I will get to that in just a minute. I have a whole bunch on that.
And I mic up the radio. I'm like, I was saying, if I bring the truck home in one piece, I can have pizza for dinner. And he goes, "I will personally buy you an entire Casey's General Store pepperoni pizza, or just a entire pizza if you bring your truck home in one piece." So I finish the race, truck in one piece. I mic up with the radio. I'm like, "Hey, by the way, Josh, I like pepperoni."
Yep.
But I get in the pits and I get out of the car, and Josh is sitting there like doing a walk around, look at my teammate's truck, and like everybody that came in, either the rear quarters were crumpled up or they had some nose damage. But I mean, there wasn't nothing on mine. I mean, not a single wrinkle, not a single crumble, not a single dent, nothing. So he said that's the cleanest truck he's brought home in a race, from a dirt race, like his entire time as a team owner. So that was very reassuring.
And I know you got the Casey's pizza because you put up a picture of the box on your Facebook page. All right, so everybody, if you go to his page, you can figure out where this come from, but we're going to get into it. Brayton is kind of like me, and I like to be different. You see, my buddy bought me Hawaiian racing shirt to wear and all this other stuff. My car was pink and purple. It got nicknamed Malibu Barbie. It is what it is. I don't like to look like, and just like you want to be different. Mm-hmm. Hashtag Pizza Man. You can find him through that way. I've seen a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to show some pictures that I pulled off your page. So apparently he likes pizza a lot because he wears pizza everywhere. There's one right there.
That was my last day of high school, I believe, or my first day.
Okay. So, and here's another one. He got pizza pants on, pizza jacket on. Now, one of the coolest ones ever. And I know this was very cool. Let me see if we can get it to pop up here. He's got a helmet done up in pepperoni pizza. So tell me that's not cool.
Yeah, so I like pizza.
So how did that all come about? Is it just to stand out a little bit different than everybody else? Is it kind of like your little tagline or whatever you want to call it?
It's definitely a unique identity for sure, but it mainly got started in like middle school. And it was racing in middle school. I know, like I said, I'm a bigger kid, and people are like, "Oh man, Brayton, what do you eat?" I'm like, "Dude, pizza. I just love pizza." We go to the racetrack and I always get a pizza. And I just kind of became known as a pizza kid. And in middle school, I got a pizza jacket, as on this picture showed, and I wore that jacket like every day. I had like 3 of them. I tried to kind of rotate, and I had a pizza backpack, I had a pizza shorts, I had a pizza hat. I got a pizza hat, and I mean, I had the everything pizza lanyard, and so I just kind of became known as like the pizza man as I got older. And then when I was kind of looking for a way to stand out in the crowd, you want something as a driver, you want to have a way that the fans can quickly relate to you, and everybody can relate to pizza.
Yep.
So I love pizza. I love race cars. Might as well just kind of merge the two, and I quickly became known as a pizza man.
Yeah, and I kind of read the story, but I wanted to share the pictures that we got all this stuff that I went out there and found with all this stuff. Now, for anybody that hasn't been to Iowa, who has not been to a Casey's General Store and had their pizza, I got to tell you, you're missing out. The Casey's General Store, honest to God, has the best pizza ever. That's just my opinion.
And they're everywhere down there.
Yep.
There's like 5 in every town. It's awesome. I love it.
And I don't brag on pizza often because, well, I like pizza, but clearly not like you. But I have to tell you, Casey's General Store, their ice cream and their pizza, hands down, some of the best anywhere. It's when I was hauling RVs back and forth, I always stopped there for a pizza and a dang ice cream. That's just so seeing that Casey's General Store pizza box on your page made me laugh a little bit deep down, because it was like, I know what he's talking about right there with that. So with your dirt racing, there was another picture that I caught on here. That is at the Gateway Dirt Nationals, am I right?
It is, yes.
So tell us how that is, because as a fan watching on the outside, that has to be one of the most grueling 50 laps or whatever they run ever, because I don't think that car ever straightens out one single time. There's not a straightaway. By the time you punch the gas, you're in the corner again.
Yeah, no. That was in 2019. The only year we went was in 2019. That was a brand new car, or new to us, given to us by CJ Rayburn. That's a pretty neat story there. CJ took me under his wing when I was like 10 or 11 from like in go-kart days. And so everything we've run dirt-wise has been Rayburn for the most part. And that was a new Rayburn chassis that he gave to us. And we went down there, and we didn't really belong down there at all. And that was like only my second year on dirt, and we ran maybe 2 or 3 races on dirt in 2019 because my dad got sick, money got a little tight, and so we just kind of set up for the majority of 2019 season. And we get this car, we put it together, and what better place to debut at than Gateway? And they had 80 late models. Yeah, crazy amount of late models here. And I was in the first heat, and that year, Bobby Pierce and like Scott Bloomquist and all these guys that have won like all the previous winners of the Gateway Dirt Nationals were in my heat race. Like they were calling that heat race the race of the year. Not the heat race, the race of the year, because it was just pure like talent and competition and skill. And then here's this guy starting dead last, Brayton Laster.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we had a motor issue that knocked us out for that weekend. On the second day of running, I believe we had a flashlight ended up in the oil pan somehow. We're still putting that one together, and it unfortunately cost us a shot at making the show at Gateway. But it was definitely a very fun experience, and we're definitely going to try to go back here either this year or possibly next year.
All right, so you can talk to it a little bit about it because you're coming off of a big deal. Now, you're talking about the Gateway Nationals. The guy that won this year was with you at Knoxville, too. Did you get to – I don't know if you know the guy or you got to talk to him or anything. Did y'all have any bonding moments because y'all are kind of coming into this together?
Well, I'm actually really good friends with Tyler. We run a lot, especially down at the Kentucky area. We race a lot in Richmond, Kentucky, which is a 3/8 mile track, or Richmond Racer down in Richmond, Kentucky. And so we've run into him a lot, and down there in Beckley too, and which I believe is West Virginia. It might be West Virginia. I don't know.
Yeah, Beckley, West Virginia. Yeah.
I think that's it. Yeah, we ran there. We ran Isom, Kentucky, with Tyler, and I mean we were actually pitted just 2 weeks ago. We both ran down at Richmond, and we were pitted next to each other, and so we were just sitting there kind of just talking about the whole Knoxville deal, and that was really cool. And I actually didn't get a chance to talk to him at Knoxville because I was always busy and he was busy. Although my dad did. My dad went to while he was in Tech, and they talked, and he was definitely very excited about the whole adventure.
Yeah, one of our friends from up here in Washington, Jay, sent us, what's your local track? What is your home track?
It depends what day of the week it is. I mean, like I said, I race a lot of cars. I grew up at the Speedrome. That is what I call the home drome, or my home track is what I call that for asphalt. Right. The dirt stuff, it'd either be Brownstown Speedway here in Brownstown, Indiana, or Richmond Raceway in Richmond, Kentucky. So I'll be racing both those tracks pretty like 50-50 split evenly.
Hey, my buddy Chevy, we play Xbox with. Hey, Chevy, home track in Kentucky. There you go. You got a fella Kentuckian jumping in here, but he's actually from Indiana. So there you go. I had to give that shout out there. But now something I noticed, and somebody else pointed this out, but I pointed out during Tyler's heat race, he started sixth and went to second on the first lap.
Yep.
Not a single word was said. That is crazy because he passed Buddy Kofoid. He ran second to Haley Deegan. That was kind of a big name field and not a single mention. But we all know why that is. We don't need to go into it. He doesn't fit the NASCAR image, but I got to give him a big shout out because that was an awesome run in his heat race. I don't know how he did in the main, but
he broke a transmission in the main, I believe. He had something break a truck. When he was running that inside the top 15, that really sucks for him. I hope he gets another chance, hopefully next year at Bristol Dirt, maybe Knoxville again. But he went from 6th to 2nd real quick. After I was done, because I was in the first heat, I get out, I'm watching the second heat, I talked to some people, and I went over and turn 1 and 2, and I watched the 3rd and 4th heat, trying to see where I could pick up some speed maybe somewhere, to see how those guys are driving the corner, and watching Tyler drive, because we both have that same background for the most part with the Dirt 8 model stuff. So that was, I sat there and watched that firsthand. Yeah. And the best part was that Buddy Kofoid.
Buddy Kofoid, yeah.
Right behind me because we're in Knoxville, that sprint car country, and they're sitting there going crazy. Yeah, beat him, yeah, smoke him, and he's sitting there running third, and then he gets around him, and then they're duking it out, and it was definitely fun to see Tyler get the opportunity.
Well, see, Buddy Kofoid's a big thing out here where we're at, so talking about Buddy, it stirs up stuff, but no, it was just really cool. Like I said, I got to watch some highlights, and then Stuart Friesen's wife, she took a pretty rough tumble over there. So So I had to give a shout out. He got a picture up. He got his TV time driving by that. I was like, man, that's got to be a bad way. But he got some other good stuff on there. So tell us. We talked a little bit off air. We asked how it was I asked you how it was with all the media and stuff like this. I want you to tell the fans the story about your interview because I think that's one of the coolest stories too. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I run my heat race, and then what they do after the heat race is put you in an impound. There's like an empty parking lot there in the infield, and they go and they heat 1 is lining you up here, heat 2 is lining you up there. And Norm, I beat Norm there in the heat, and he actually pulled off lap early, I believe, so he went straight to his hauler. So they pulled me in. I'm like the last car in like the heat, and they run out of room in like the first row, so they put me at the start of the second row. Well, second heat gets done. And I'm getting out of the truck, and here comes Carson Hocevar, who's a big inspiration of mine. He parked right next to me because he just won his heat. I'm like, this is cool. And so there's all kinds of cameras and stuff that taking pictures of cars. So I'm like, that's neat and whatnot. So I'm getting my helmet, my Hans device, and my headshot. I'm just gathering all my stuff up there to go back to the hauler. And I'm getting ready to turn around, and some dude walks up to me, and no idea who he was. He has like a little microphone, like a video camera. He's like, "Hey, Brayton, can I get a chance to talk to you for an interview real quick?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure thing." And he asked me a couple questions about the track and my background. And he obviously knew who I was. I feel really bad because we get done with the interview. He goes, "All right, thank you." And he turns around and he zooms. And I never caught his name. I have no idea who he's with. So there's a fantastic interview of me somewhere out there, and I have no idea where it's at.
Yeah. So did you get to meet any of like the Sirius XM people or anybody at all, or did everybody just kind of keep to yourself?
I believe it was Dave Moody I saw with the MRN. It might
right.
be, but I heard that. I want to say it was Dave. Whoever was on the boy, whoever's like a really distinct, like deep voice. I believe it's Dave. He was sitting there in front. When I get back from the heat race, he's in our pit stall, just sitting there talking on the air. And you can hear him. I'm like, I'm walking by, and I heard his voice, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's that MRN guy. I'm like, this is so cool. And I didn't talk to him, but seeing him there at the track was definitely like, wow, this is so cool.
So after everything is getting done, what is when you have a big weekend like that, there's always that one thing that stands out the most out of that weekend. What is that one thing for you that you remember going into the weekend?
To be honest, I ate a lot of pizza that entire weekend. I ate a lot of pizza. That whole weekend, I ate a lot.
It was the pizza. I gotcha.
Yeah.
So, what did your parents think of this big whole adventure? Because that's got to be, like I said, I mean, Daytona and Talladega, that's a completely different thing. Going to Knoxville, Iowa, not only is it like a huge thing to do in dirt racing, now you're at this level going into that. What did your parents think about this whole thing?
It was a very emotional experience for everybody involved. And I mean, they've been kind of behind me this entire time. And they've supported me 24/7, no matter what. And just being able to make it to the Daytona and Talladega was very emotional. And making that next jump to the Truck Series was there were a lot of that happy tears shed. So it was pretty awesome. I was able to sit there and spend that time with them there at the racetrack.
Yeah, and that's kind of the stories that we were looking to get in here with this tonight, because guys, you have to go check out his page and check out his feed and just read everything. You need to go way back right till you start seeing the truck show up in there, and then go up to the top and watch everything, because
it's story.
Yeah, it's very cool to watch this, and you could tell by your mom, and I'm assuming that's who was doing most of your social media posting. Is the way it appeared. I don't know. It's just
I'm assuming so. I don't know. I was driving the truck. I don't know.
Right, I understand that. So, but you could tell it. I mean, they documented everything so well. It's so cool. It's so awesome. What are your plans? Do you have any more plans with the Rayum? Have they talked to you about some more stuff or no?
Yes, we are talking about Raceway Park, Indianapolis Raceway Park here, July 29th. Although NASCAR is not a huge fan of me running asphalt yet, even though I grew up on asphalt. So we're still working on that, and we're hoping to announce something here either later this week or the next couple weeks here. I'm not. Kenny's in here. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There's nothing I can't drive. I'm driving a school bus in the figure eight. That was fun. So I mean, I would drive anything. But as far as future plans go, the entire Rayum team there, they were very welcoming. They were awesome to work with. They had a great team to make my debut with, and I am definitely foreshadowing towards some things maybe in the future. And I'm really looking forward to kind of growing with them. I don't really see us going anywhere else for the time being. So I'm not going to announce anything yet. But
okay.
We're still going to do the dirt stuff, though. We're still going to focus on the local competition, the figure eight stuff, right? And dirt and whatnot. So,
well, I don't know. So, you telling us the story earlier, I got to tell you, you sound like Cold Trickle there. I didn't have to do nothing. I just showed up, got in the car. I didn't have to do nothing. So, that sounds like the Cold Trickle story there. Got to laugh a little bit there when you're telling all that stuff. So.
It's hard not to want to turn wrenches, because normally I'm sitting there, I'm working, me, Crip, we're sitting there, we're doing at least doing tire pressure or something, but I'm going to sit here, I'm going to stand here, I'm going to have my bottles of water in my hand so I don't pick up stuff. And someone, I love duct tape. I mean, I love duct tape. Someone handed me duct tape at one point. I just started duct tape and stuff. So
yeah. So tell us. You said NASCAR's not too keen on you running asphalt yet. Do they have and I asked because we saw Jennifer Jo Cobb get a ride for Talladega. They said she wasn't qualified to run, didn't get to run. Is it because you haven't went through that qualification process with NASCAR yet, or?
I'm not really sure what it is. The biggest thing I know with Raceway Park is that it's the first race of the playoffs, and they really don't want some young gun going into turn one, bonsai, and take out half the field.
Right.
So I'm not too sure exactly what it is. I've ran Daytona, I've ran Talladega, but I don't, as far as intermediate track goes, half mile asphalt tracks, we don't have that necessary experience. I'm guessing that coordinating NASCAR, so I'm not really sure what the exact rhyme and reason is, but I mean, they've been doing this a lot longer than I have, so I think they're probably, I'm definitely a little biased when it comes to my opinion as far as that goes. So I'm going to say their opinion is probably justified.
Well, they've been in business for an awful long time and watched a lot of things grow up. So, are there any NASCAR tracks that you, besides Indy, because that's close to your home, are there any that you really just want to go drive? Because I know if I had an opportunity to drive, there's two that I would really like to drive, and that's Martinsville and Richmond. I think they're very cool tracks. I like to watch the races from those two tracks. I'm not necessarily a super huge fan of it, but I like watching the racing there. And if you played the video games, they're cool to drive on. I mean, what are your thoughts as far as tracks that you really, really want to run?
Getting to run Daytona and Talladega in the ARCA car was like awesome. Going there in a truck would even be more phenomenal. So running those there would be pretty cool. As far as like new tracks, Pocono, Michigan, they're like 1.5 miles or Michigan 2 miles, but they're unique. They're fast. I love speed. That's my big thing. I just love going fast. So going fast around in Michigan because they fly around there. That'd be pretty cool. Or Bristol, I think, would definitely be a very unique track to run. And I've never ran there. We've talked about going there with the dirt stuff, but we've never, things just never lined up the way we did for that.
Well, and so I'm going to ask the question with XR, with all they're doing with y'all having the late models and stuff like that. Are you planning any trips, like maybe over to North Wilkesboro when they tear it up and run the dirt?
Yes, as of now. The plan is, as far as major events go, I know the XR is coming to Kokomo here in Kokomo, Indiana, September 8th and 9th. We're going to run with the Lucas Oil. We run with the Lucas Oil guys a lot. We run with the World of Outlaw guys a lot. Like, we're not a regular on the tour. We just, run a couple races this season, but they know us, and they're very welcoming. They're very open arms, so we love running with those guys. So we're going to be running a couple of the bigger series throughout the season. I know we will be at Kokomo, though, with the XR, and we've talked about North Wilkesboro. It would be a historic opportunity, and probably one of the only opportunity we'll ever get to turn laps at North Wilkesboro as such a historic venue to begin with. So
right.
We're talking about it. We don't have anything set in stone yet, though.
Well, and see, I listened to Dale Jr. talk about that, a month and a half ago when all this was announced. He talked about it, said, I'm going to go run our stock late model or whatever it is over there. I want to go do it. This is the first time it's lined up. It was brushed over. Nobody even mentioned it.
Uh-huh.
Well, then he was there yesterday and drove laps in it there, and now it's the biggest news story. And I've talked about that now for 3 weeks, saying, why is nobody covering what this guy just said? He said he's going to race there. He's wanted to run their late model. He's never had an opportunity that they have. And he said, during the week, when I'm not announcing somewhere, I'm going to be at the track hanging out. It's the coolest thing. And now he was there yesterday, and now it's all over every news source. And I was like, how did they miss that scoop? He said right there on his show he's going to do this. So, but are you looking at doing anything asphalt wise over there? Now that's the next question. Or can you say?
I mean, we have we're trying to limit our asphalt competition, or at least one goes to local tracks. We don't have we have our figure 8 model, but that's legal for the figure 8 classes around here only, so we can't really go take that anywhere we want. And then we have some front wheel drive Hornet stuff, but it's not really ready for competition at a bigger track like that. It's mainly just for the short track stuff here. So, but do you have a street stock we're talking about maybe putting together?
Yeah, well, I was just wondering, through all your new connections, you might have a little something over there to go run North Wilkesboro. So
we might, who knows?
Yeah, so I know. So, well, if you want to share any news releases, hop on here. We'll certainly share out anything you got going on here. So, well, we're coming right up on an hour here. We'll kind of end it just a little bit early, but I appreciate all your time with doing this stuff. And if you'll hang tight, we'll end the show here. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and check him out and check out his Facebook page, because you'll get some really cool insight on it. Because I'm telling you, his story over the whole weekend is amazing. So, all right, thanks, guys, and have a good night.